the,
It's in the paper, why does it have to be an executive session?
well, it doesn't, that's up to you, but the lawsuits as it applies to Mr. Bailey and Mr. Bailey are being,
And the city manager,
I wasn't done.
and the fire chief.
The suits against the two firemen are being levied personally. It's not against the fire department, and none of it was against the village. If it's filed as a lawsuit, the village will be joined as a party, but I talked to Attorney Cardinal, and those claims are being made against the individuals.
But as a representative, as village employees, does that disqualify him from making any decision regarding those village employees?
With respect to that lawsuit, yes.
How about dispensing or asking for dismissal, as was done at the last meeting? Now, I'm asking you as a legal opinion. Now, I'm not asking that he doesn't have any right for a discussion about it, because I think he does. But as far as deciding on his status or the village manager or the village employee status, I think he doesn't have a right for that vote.
If it's based on that lawsuit, you're correct.
How about the $10,000?
But if he calls for dismissal based on anything else, then that's not a conflict.
But, as I'm going to refer to you again, he requested $10,000, and if they didn't pay the $10,000, then it would be filed as a lawsuit.
Correct.
Okay. That letter, nothing more than an extortion letter.
It's a demand letter.
The demand letter.
It's a demand letter in my world.
You can use your legal name. I'll call it what I want to call it.
He's not conflicted out of every discussion with regard to the manager or those firefighters, but as it pertains to that demand letter or a lawsuit, if it were to get filed, then yeah, he's gonna have to abstain from voting. But if someone makes a motion to fire somebody unrelated to that,
Unrelated to that letter that we got.
correct.
Thank you.
That's a different, unrelated to that, it's a different story. Everybody's,
I understand it. Thank you. You answered my question.
Can I ask a question? Has there been a lawsuit?
we've not been served with any lawsuit. I talked to Attorney Cardinal on Friday, wanted to know the status of,
Because there hasn't been a lawsuit.
But there has been a demand for money.
There hasn't been a lawsuit.
There's been a demand for money, Jim. You can shake your shoulders all you want.
Well, there hasn't been a lawsuit yet.
Don't threaten me.
I mean, the letter states,
well.
I will commence the lawsuit and take your sworn testimony in April of 2016. So time is the essence of this matter.
The two prosecutors' opinions that you got today, one of them was referencing Mr. Bates. That's something that has to be addressed soon. But as far as what you're saying, Joe, yes. And in fact, if there's a conflict of interest with regard to the lawsuit, say we were going to discuss the possibility of resolving that by making a payment or something like that, Mr. Kennel would have to step out of the room. And when there's a conflict, you're not allowed to participate in discussion either. So I had that issue in Beloit when I researched it. If there's a conflict, there's a conflict. You can't participate in discussion, you have to leave the room.
Okay.
Which probably should have happened last time with regard to that specific issue.
But I still feel with the demand of $30,000 for those individuals is wrong. And shouldn't be
Well,
allowed.
that's an issue for trier fact. I mean, if they file a lawsuit, it's going to be up to the judge whether or not it's wrong. You know, I think that the village is, that's as far as I'm going to go with as far as what would or would not happen.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, moving along, citizens' comments. Let's go on our agenda. Any citizen wish to address council this evening? Mr. McDaniel, need your address for the clerk, please.
305 West Mahoning.
Yes, sir.
I'm happy to say that, well, I've had more problems with my cats, not my cats. And I went to the chief about it, because I got more damage. And I have a meeting with Mrs. Colson and 3 of my neighbors Thursday. So I'm glad. Last time I was here was not last meeting, the meeting before. You guys said you could look into different things and see if there was any new news. I just wanted if there was anything new.
I don't have anything unless Mr. Flowers, Safety Committee, then Mr.
I know that the Mahoning County Dog Warden was visiting with the police today, so I can check with the chief to see if that's exactly what that was about. Perhaps they were looking at animal control from the county to deal with that.
So nothing.
What, if I can, what I will tell you is that one ordinance that we have in the books is just entirely unenforceable. I said that 2 years ago, and because Danny and I, went around with this trying to figure out what to do. But somebody had told you you're not allowed to live trap these cats, and
I was told I'd be arrested.
well, you won't be prosecuted because I'm the prosecutor, and there's nothing illegal about live traps.
I'm glad to hear that.
You live trap those cats and take them to Angels for Animals or wherever it is you take them. I mean, I'd say do it on your properties, but
Yeah.
I've yet to see anything that justifies a claim that you're not allowed to live trap cats or anything else.
I've
So,
estimated between my car being in there, screens in my house, personal belongings, cleaning supplies, up to almost $1,500 that cats have cost me. So, and they were just, I was leaving just now and there was like 3 or 4 of them on my property. They're everywhere.
Screens? What are they doing with the screens?
Stuck to
Scratching?
it.
Hanging
Stuck
from
to
our
it.
Hanging from screens?
Yeah, trying to get in the house.
Okay.
And I have one other thing to say, and I hate to do this. Mr. Egger, you had some comments to me last time about the cats and your opinion on that. In the last meeting, I was at a sports banquet at your facility, and I'd like to share these with the council. He gives me opinions about the cats, and that's on his property, and there was 10 cats there. You can keep those, 'cause I got copies. You got cats everywhere on your property.
No, I don't have 10 cats on my property, I have 4. And they're strays,
Yeah.
and they keep my mice away.
They also bring in rats when you feed them, because I've killed 3 rats on my property, and I
No,
haven't had a rat.
You've got your opinion, sir.
It's not an opinion. You, sir, give comments about the cats and what should be done about it. You're adding to the problem. You are a hypocrite.
Thank you.
I'm sure the Board of Health would like to know that you're feeding stray cats on your premises also.
Anything else on
Comments are
citizens'
taken
comments?
wisely, sir.
I'm sorry?
I say your comments are taken wisely.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Name for the clerk and address?
Tracy McFerrin, 696 West Virginia.
Yes, ma'am.
This comment, I have a comment about an Alliance Review, March 15th edition. It's a quote from Jim Kennel. Ms. Householder had said she believes Kennel has a vendetta, to which he replied, I have a vendetta against people who don't work. And my question, I guess, Mr. Kennel, is how do you justify a statement of having a vendetta against somebody who doesn't work when you were on school board, you paid an employee who was not on the job for several months out of the year, and you knew of this, and also you made sure that employee got health benefits when they were only a part-time employee. So I'm just kind of curious how you can justify it when you're accusing Mr. Giroux of not working, when he's gotten over $400,000 worth of grants here to save us and all the taxpayers' money for all this water crisis, but yet in the past, when you were on school board, you were okay paying an employee who wasn't even in the state.
I don't have a vendetta against Mr. Rich over here, okay?
I'm just quoting from the last
I don't
year.
care what the paper says. The paper says I'm an arsonist. You believe that? I don't care what the
No.
paper says. All right? Yeah. I don't have a vendetta against anybody. And I commented on him because I don't believe he's doing his job.
Well,
Okay?
that's kind of what I'm asking. If you don't believe he's
Okay.
doing his job,
But that's just my feelings as a city councilman.
Okay.
Hope that answers your question.
Anybody else, citizens' comments? We're moving on then. Report of reading and referring of communications and petitions. Any petitions to be presented to council tonight? Communications, do you have any communications? Do you have any, Mr. Manager? No. Council, just to make sure that you have everything that come in addressed to mayor and manager. Letter from the EPA, the manager will be addressing that in his report. I see about the MPDES inspection and discharge permit. You have information on the PSAP, the Public Service Answering Point, to propose new rules for that, which may affect us greatly. Mr. Harp, a couple of meetings ago, you'd asked about having an EPA representative come to a council meeting. I received a call from Mr. Baker, the chief of the groundwater division, the EPA, asking if there was any specific questions that they could come prepared to answer, if we had any, and also suggested that myself, your manager, and any member of council that would be willing to make a trip to Columbus to sit down with him, and you'll try and have Mr. Mr. Butler available. Since we're hopefully winding this whole issue down, see if there's anything, we have any questions that we might have, or anything that we want further clarification on. Because I asked a question about the bottled water. How long will that continue? And Mr. Baker was under the impression that we had discontinued that already. And I come in and asked Mr. Giroux, and he confirmed that that isn't the last, the orders did not, we have no orders that says we can discontinue that at this time.
According to the orders, when there were several issued, that you have to have an alternative water supply until the situation has been rectified. The water in the system has been purged. It's been well over 6 weeks. It takes about 6 weeks for the system to naturally purge, so the caustic feed and the orthophosphate have been introduced. So the system should be pretty much normalized now. I know that Director Sainer was doing some more sequential sampling today. We'll wait for those results, and those will be submitted to EPA. I do have some good news regarding the approval of the phosphate feed system that I'll put in my report.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, until we meet all the criteria, based on their time schedule, we have to have an alternative water supply. Now, I have to say that the bottled water use has reduced, but we are keeping an adequate supply at the community center as needed.
Very good.
Mr. Mayor?
I would ask, are any of you interested in going to Columbus to meet with the EPA on this issue?
Any idea when it would be?
I have to call him back sometime this week and see if we can find a mutual agreeable time and date.
I would.
You would?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
Well, if my work schedule will permit that, I would also, but I would like to let you know that when I asked for that specific reason so that the public, if they had any questions, could ask that. When I was in conversation with Chris Maslow, he specifically told me it was a governor's rule that they will not meet where the press is in-house. So they will not come here.
Very good. I was not given that specifics, but if you were, that's fine.
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
I got. But I did want to state that not only, I didn't say anything, question from council specifically, as it was stated in the memo. I asked that the public could attend and ask any questions, in regards to this. And they will not meet in a public body with the press. And that, I was told by Mr. Chris Maslow, the EPA. So I don't know if our trying to do this is eventful or not,
No idea.
you know?
I guess we'll find out if we make a trip down. Ken, is there any specific day that will you look at your calendar and let me know what might be good for you?
Yeah, right now, there's softball to think about, so it'll be tight.
All right. All right, I'll say after the meeting. All right. We do have a request for a revolving loan for building improvements in the downtown area. And it comes from Leonard Hardware. And Mr. Harp, I'll pass this down to you. I did not make copies. That is the original.
It's copies.
Oh, it's a copy. Okay.
Thank you.
Last but not least, I have two letters from a concerned citizen, and it was addressed to mayor and council. You have both those copies of that. That was all the communications that come across my desk. Anything else under communication? Madam Solicitor, you have anything?
No.
Okay. Report of council committees and council representatives. Finance, Mr. Hart.
Yes, Mayor, members of council. Finance Committee has not met since our last council meeting. Therefore, a motion to pay bills dated from 3/12/2016 through 3/25 of 2016 in the amount of $153,409.90 would be in order when funds become available.
Second.
Motion by Harp, seconded by Agro. Pay the bills when funds become available. Questions or comments?
Mayor, under questions or comments, I list the outstanding bills for this pay period, and they are as follows. Farmers National Bank of Canfield, $53,549.62 for a bond principal payment. AT&T, $5,144.32 phone payment. Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, $18,936.07 health insurance. Bureau of Workmen's Compensation, $24,006.57, that's premium payment. Bonded Chemical Incorporated, $3,393.50 for orthophosphate payment. Henderson Electric, $2,150 for work on a flocculator. Water plant, at the water plant, okay? Thank you. And Michael Benza and Associates, $6,786.60. And Ream and Hager Lab, $6,665 for EPA testing at the water plant. Staley Technology, $5,978.75 for the monitor of the pagers for the fire department. Finley Fire Equipment, $2,962 for miscellaneous operating supplies at the fire department. And that is all I have is outstanding payments in this pay cycle, Mayor.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, clerk call the roll.
Agro.
Aye.
Householder.
Aye.
Aye.
Kennel.
Yes.
Aye.
Motion carries. Anything else, Mr. Harp?
No, Mayor, not at this time.
Okay. Legislative, Mrs. Householder.
No meeting, Mayor.
Okay. Capital improvements, Mr. Wright is out. Mr. Ms. Householder, Mr. Kennel.
Nothing.
Okay. Annexations, buildings, lands, Mr. Kennel.
Nothing.
Service maintenance, Mr. Igro.
No meeting?
Safety, Mr. Flowers.
No meeting since we last met, Mayor, but we will be having one shortly
Okay.
to go over a few things.
Very good. Parks was Mr. Wright. I don't believe there was a Parks Board meeting since last meeting. Planning and zoning, Ms. Householder.
No meeting.
Civil service was Ms. Householder.
No meeting.
The Veterans Memorial and Retention Committees have not met since our last meeting, although the Veterans Memorial Committee will meet on Tuesday, the 5th of April at, I believe it's 6 o'clock or 6:30. And we're using the conference room of the American Legion for that meeting, if anybody would like to attend. I believe that's all under council reports, council committees, and it's manager's report. Mr. Giroux, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Judy Work and I, Judy Work, for those who don't know her, she's in finance. We set up the new general fund budget accounts. We created a 100-8100 series. This is for the property maintenance bond initiative. 3 separate accounts have been set up, one for housing bond escrow, one for housing bond administration, and one for housing bond enforcement. These are only in electronic format. However, I will need future council approval when the solicitor forwards the funding to finance. We're going to need council's approval to set up those accounts permanently, to appropriate and then the budget and appropriate the necessary funds into those accounts to actually get the program and process going. So it has been set up. One thing I do want to bring to council's attention, I need some guidance regarding on how you want to deal with the ordinance. There's one section, and specifically it says, a portion of the said bond and the amount to be determined by the manager shall be retained by the municipality as administrative fee to fund the account for expenses incurred in inspecting, securing, repairing, and/or marking said building and other buildings which are involved in the foreclosure process or vacant. The operative phrase being the amount of the to be determined by the manager, the portion to be retained. That's in our ordinance. The Alliance ordinance specifies 10%, that's what we used as a guideline. My request and recommendation to council would be, rather than going with the manager's subjective percentage, I would like for the legislative committee to consider amending our current legislation to reflect the 10%. Actually specify in the legislation 10%.
I thought it did specify in there, Rick.
No, I pulled this off the original copy. I think it just said to be determined by the manager, and I thought, well, it just seemed appropriate that we know it says 10% in the ordinance, and there isn't any gray areas to what needs to be paid if that would ever be challenged by any of the people sending in the bond. So I would just ask maybe legislative committee to look at that. I will make sure that council members get the appropriate documentation, just for your edification.
You might want to make some other changes that just to, map out how we determine what's vacant and.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. When I brought Bill Cardinal back on a couple weeks ago, one of his tasks are to reassess the master list that we originally did based on his observations of which ones were vacant and which ones were not, to go back over that, in other words, do the entire city grid, reassess which ones are vacant in his opinion and which ones are not, including the information that you gave us that some of them are really not vacant, so we'll take those off the list. So I guess the short version of that is we're gonna redo it, fine tune it, so we have a much more specified list of what's vacant and what's not. I don't know if we can follow up with addresses to find out whether they're bank owned or not, but we'll certainly do that. So
Well, you
that
can
process
determine
is
if they're
already in
bank
motion.
owned through the auditor's office. That's simple. The auditor's office will determine if they're bank owned, who the owner is. The thing is, if they're in foreclosure, you gotta look at the clerk's office. And we did all that with the properties that we were given.
Right.
But we may need to involve the water department or something.
Mr. Cardinal's doing the grid right now as part of his regular code enforcement duties, so I've got a meeting with him later this week, and I can ask him what the status of that inspection list is. But that's a new list compared to the old list to see which ones may not be vacant versus new ones that may. So it'll be an updated list. At least it's a start for us to look at. Anyway, I appreciate council's consideration on the legislation review.
Ms. Householder,
Mm-hmm.
that come under your legislative committee?
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
As previously reported to council regarding the NPDES pre-permit deficiencies, as council was advised earlier, we did get a notice indicating that they needed an updated map. I made sure that they got an updated map or EPA got an updated map from our engineers, and that was submitted the following day, which met the criteria. Subsequent to the NPDES, once the permit process was submitted, or the permit was submitted and it was reviewed, they did an on-site inspection. We were issued a notice of violation for the report writing within a 14-day period. As I explained in my memo to council earlier, this was the period when there was a transition from the time that EPA had removed Mr. Bates as operator of record and before Mr. Alpeter came on board as the new Class 3 operator of record. EPA indicated, including our new operator of record, that Mr. Harshman, because he's Class 2, could not submit that report. He didn't have qualifications. Anyway, I just, working with Don, and I give Don Alpeter a lot of credit, he got the new submissions in. EPA submitted to us a, what's called an ROV, which is essentially rescinding the violation and terminating it. So that has been dealt with. But I wanted to keep council up to speed that was, and I give Don a lot of credit, he did it in a matter of days. So that was a little cross in the bureaucracy, but the city, or the village did take care of that. The bond closing for the $100,000 capital expenditure was a couple weeks ago, per council's instructions, which Councilman Hart just indicated the expenditure of $53,000. That was the $50,000 plus the $3,000 in interest that we paid toward the original 2015 $150,000 bond. Per council's instructions, that was reduced by $50,000, and a new bond was issued for $100,000. That has been done. The interest rate for the new bond is 2.6. The previous rate was 2.37. So I think we should still see a reduction in payment or interest because of the principal amount being lower. My office was advised by Fire Chief Anderson that Fire Captain Dean Bailey had resigned as EMS Fire Captain effective March 17th. He has opted to return to the rank of firefighter. Fire Chief will be making a recommendation in the near future regarding a replacement captain or a request to adjust the command structure at the fire department. So I do not have any information from the Fire Chief on his intentions, although he did indicate to me that when he had those, we would meet and I'll fill in council as soon as I know. I was also instructed by council and at the request of the building inspector to do a breakdown on the building department's revenues versus expenses for fiscal year 2015. I've already submitted council a copy of that fiscal report. The revenues for 2015 for the building department were $5,438.71. The expenses were $5,242.22 for a net operating loss of $196.49. So, but, you know, that's the cost of business. It is almost break even. But I think that's one of the reasons why the building inspector was...
That's not a loss.
That's not a loss.
That's not a loss.
That's a gain.
That's a
You're
profit.
ahead.
It's a net gain of, it's of only 196.
Okay, we're about...
That typo.
Yeah, that's good, unless it's transposed. Okay. I'll then check.
I like the gain better.
Yeah, I like the game better too, but okay, I will definitely check. Okay, so that's net operating profit of $196.49. But I will double check that just to be sure. I thought when Judy did the processing in the report, that she indicated net operating losses in parentheses, so something's not quite right, but it's close. And I will have an accurate assessment for you in this week's report. Also working with Judy in Finance, we're going to create a sub-department budget for this operation. Right now it is being taken out of general fund accounts. With council's permission, similar to the bond initiative, what I'd like to do is create a sub-budget that's just as we have with many other budget operations, so we can track expenditures versus appropriations and do that. So that's in motion as well. We can amend it this year if you like, or I can just simply make that happen in the 2017 budget. When we put that together this year. So at council's discretion, however you want to do it. My letter also received a letter of resignation from Mr. Brian Bailey from village appointment as foreman of the Sebring Service Department. His resignation will be effective April 8th. Director Samer and I will be exploring vacancies when that vacancy becomes official. So we'll look at that. Let's see. My office has also been advised by the EPA and Director Sainer that repairs and maintenance and perhaps replacement for the Village of Beloit's current equipment is needed to ensure proper monitoring and reporting. Bill talking with, did you talk with Roger? Talked with Roger and Beloit, and Roger indicated to Bill that they did okay the expenditure. That's just to update the turbidity monitoring, the standpipe, and the telemetry monitoring of the standpipe. This is something that needs to be done, including a tank inspection by OEPA 5-year mandates. I know this has been kind of battered back and forth, but I give Bill a lot of credit for making good progress. I also followed up with a very respectful letter to Mayor Augustine of the Village of Beloit, asking for his assistance with his board of affairs to perhaps expedite this for us. So as soon as I hear from Mayor Augustine or I hear from Bill regarding Roger, I will give council an update on it. But even though it is Beloit's system, we are obligated to maintain it because it is also part of our public works system. So it's kind of it's per contract. I think that contract is 30 years old. It's pretty old. Anyway, that's one of our obligations. So we will definitely continue to work with Beloit to make that happen. Sebring Police Department forwarded a request to First Energy to repair burned out street lights in the village at the following locations, just in case you want to know where they're at. There's one light out at 17th and Indiana, one in front of 165 West Vermont, one in front of 866 North 12th, one at Royal Oak Circle in East Maryland, right around in front of 405 Royal Oak, one in front of 631 West Ohio, also another one in front of 647 West Ohio, and also one in front of 671 West Ohio. So First Energy has been advised, and hopefully get those repaired in a timely fashion. Fire Lieutenant Striefler advised my office that the fire department received written authorization from Mahoning Trumbull Air Pollution Control Agency. This is for their live burn training at 120 East Texas Avenue. Sebring Fire is going to conduct the live burn training on April 9th. They will be closing 15th Street off in that area that day from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. We'll alert the media as that time gets closer. And the police department was also notified, just in case there were any traffic issues. When the fire department is finished with their controlled burn, my office will go ahead and make arrangements to have the structure demolished. We already have money in the demolition budget, and it was already scheduled for that before the fire burn thing came about. So when they're done, we'll take the rest of it down and tidy up the property and move on to the next problem. The statewide tornado drill was scheduled. This was through the Mahoning County EMA. It was scheduled for Wednesday, March 23rd. So if you're at 9:50 a.m. So if you heard the sirens go off, that was a county siren test for tornadoes. And the siren sounded for 3 minutes. Let's see. My office received a response back from Chris Maslow, OEPA, regarding the scheduled meeting for Sebring officials with EPA. I think that's already been discussed, so we'll go back through that. Per presidential order, all the flags were to be lowered in honor of the lives lost in the terrorist attacks perpetrated on March 22nd in Brussels, Belgium, and that was to be until sunset March 26th. We just got a new notice, so you might as well leave them down when you do that, because it's to remain down for another several days on another occasion. We're still following up, just to give council a quick update, still following up on the phone issue. Judy Warwick in Finance advised my office that the new phone company rep will be in Sebring on Monday at 1 p.m. This to meet us in person, I think that's next Monday, to provide us answers regarding our phone contract and our overcharges. I guess the short version of that long saga is they're going to look at the last 10 years plus with the bills. So we're looking at $504,805 over charges. So based on our current new contract and our previous contract, they are going to reassess that. We still may get a substantial money back because we do believe that we have overcharged. Judy has provided them with all the documentation that indicates that may be the case, so we should be receiving some money back. So I will certainly keep council up to speed when that issue is closed. Mahoning County Health Commission will be meeting in the Sebring Council Chambers on Wednesday, April 20th. This is to review and render judgment regarding the health conditions at the property located at 176 West Oregon. That will be here in a couple of weeks. As I'm sure everyone knows by now, I am very pleased to announce that my office, working with USDA, RCAP, and USD, has secured a USDA emergency and imminent community water assistance grant. Actual number is for $404,885. This will not only help cover the expenditures to date that we have expended for the water crisis, this will also cover our cost for the construction of the permanent orthophosphate feed system. I give high marks to Senator Sherrod Brown, not only for expediting the processing of the grant, he was also instrumental in the amount that we got, so we're grateful for that. The press event was here in Chambers on March 21st. When the hard copy of confirmation of this grant award arrives, I need to forward legislation to council because we need to formally accept that. And then once that is accepted, then when the money arrives, it will be a combination of disbursement and reimbursement, but we're going to have to appropriate that. So I'll have to create a new line item to process that. We'll get reimbursed based on all the receipts that we had submitted with USDA. And then as the new expenditures with the construction of the orthophosphate permanent system comes online, including additional engineering costs and so forth, and we will take the grant money and disperse it directly from there. So it'll be a combination of two things.
Mr. Stryker, that's a question.
With that money coming in, do you look for any extra money that we will not have to spend on the improvements out there that we could use for lead line replacement?
Actually,
For our
there's,
citizens?
yeah, actually, there's a couple programs. One of the ones that I've been starting to just get into with USDA is that they do have, they're called residential grants. In fact, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put that on the website. There is a limited amount of money, but USDA does have money for residents to replace their own service lines. My preliminary information, it is a no-match grant similar to what we got for residents. And residents can get that information off the website, and it should be up this week.
I think that, I meant with the money that we're getting now, is there any extra money in there that we know of that we could use towards that replacement instead of waiting for new grants?
I can ask the USDA if that's an allowable expense that was not part of the initial package, but
Okay.
they've been very flexible with this grant, so that may be possible. So I will check into that and report to council. Also, in order to be sure that the village meets auditing requirements, my office has legislation tonight regarding the wastewater treatment plant UV controller purchase. I very much appreciate last session that council had passed it on the floor, but I think just to make the auditors happy, we introduced legislation to do it officially, and so there's actually a formal track record. So that legislation is before you tonight. Director Sainer wanted me to let Sebring residents know that he is renting a grader and will be working on alley repairs shortly. So I'm sure a lot of folks are going to be happy about that, but he definitely wanted me to get that out tonight. Also, I'm very happy to announce that we just received, in fact, I received it today, planner approval for the permanent orthophosphate feed system and design specifications for OEPA. This has been a 2-month process. I mean, from preliminary designs have been redesigned so many times. Anyway, we finally got a plan that EPA is happy with, and they did approve that. The plan does state that you need to do entry point samples every 2 weeks, which we are already doing as part of the sequential sampling. The plan also states that we can collect at least 3 distribution samples per month with orthophosphate, pH, alkalinity, which has also been scheduled. And the construction of this permanent feed system will commence as soon as the system hardware arrives and the project schedule is finalized. And of course, we can use the grant money to make that happen. So very happy to get that done. I think that's the last item on there. The temporary orthophosphate feed system has been operating for a little over 3 weeks. And I think we're getting back to normal. So, Mr. Mayor, that concludes my formal report.
Okay, Mr. Randy, questions, council? Mr. Hart?
Yes, Mayor. Mr. Duro, on the grant money, will that be deposited in the general fund?
Actually, what I probably will do is, since it has to, and I will double check, but I think it should be actually Water Systems Fund. I'm going to create a sub-budget in the Water Systems Fund, so it's specifically earmarked for that. I'm afraid if we put it in general fund, the waters will get money. water fund, like wastewater fund is protected, so it can't be used for any other purpose. So I would anticipate, yeah, water fund.
And on the amount of money, is there a time certain that that has to be spent out?
I haven't gotten any indications of that yet. They seem to be very flexible with that. I can assure you, based on the expenses incurred so far, plus how fast we're moving forward with the ortho, the permanent ortho feed, I imagine it'll be spent pretty quick.
Any other questions from the manager?
Mr. Kellogg has one and I have one.
Oh, Cal.
On Brian Bailey's resignation,
Yeah.
April 28th,
Yeah, that should, I think that's a typo on his part. It should say March
and it
20th.
says, you just made him foreman about a month ago, right? Okay, he's resigning from the position as foreman of the Sebring Service Department.
He's leaving.
Down, later down there, it says, my resigning from the foreman position.
He's
Now,
resigning,
it doesn't say in here he's resigning from the street department.
he's resigning
Huh?
he's resigning from village employment.
Yeah, but it
He's
doesn't say
accepted,
that.
he's accepted a new
Now,
position.
his dad, in the fire report, the fire captain William Bailey has resigned as EMS captain effective March, but he opts to say a firefighter. Now, did he resign as a street department worker or just a foreman?
No, he's resigned his employment
It's-
from the village.
It's my understanding he resigned his employment with the street department.
He's taken a
It
new
doesn't
position.
say that. It says he's resigning as a foreman. Does he go back to being a
No, that's the
worker?
position he's holding, so that's what he resigns as. That's the position he
His
holds.
dad resigned as a captain and went back to a firefighter.
Mr. Bailey is leaving village employment. He took another job. with-
I just don't want it to come back on us.
It won't,
Huh?
it won't, it's a voluntary resignation, he's already taken another job.
Several months back, I asked you about cameras in the police cruisers.
Yeah,
Have you done anything about that?
I have passed that on to the chief is
Huh?
looking into it, and he said he was looking at a grant options for
There
that.
was a $100,000 grant I give to you,
And I passed that on to Chief Everly.
okay? So you don't have no answers for me?
I just gave you an answer.
Huh?
I just gave you an answer.
And the white van up on East Vermont Avenue,
Yes, I gave that to the police department, they looked into that.
and the sidewalk grant from school to school for our schools,
I have not had time to address that yet.
you haven't done anything? Okay, that's all.
Unlike.
Flowers.
Yeah, unlike most of the people here in council, I want to say thank you to Mr. Giroux for his hard work in getting $400,000 for this grant.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
was Mr. Giroux. He worked countless hours from February 22nd to March 21st, and it was definitely not a cut and paste operation. I would just like to say thank you, Rick, from the citizens and myself.
Thank you, Councilman.
Anything else? Okay, report of other officials. Madam Solicitor, anything else?
Are we going into executive session tonight?
I haven't heard of one unless somebody's gonna request it.
I just need to address an employment issue. If we could go into a very brief executive session. Personnel.
We'll see what happens at the end of the meeting. That's what I can tell you. I have had a call from trustee Mannion today, and Pixel has contacted him as the chair of that committee to put that one call together. Ask us for we have to have a name for it, for their records. Mr. Mannion has suggested the word best call. That would include Beloit, Sebring, Smith Township, when he spells it out. And I just need to know if council wants me to continue to write up to signing a contract, and then we'll get legislation for the manager. This is still at no cost to us. It would still work exactly as it is, and we would have to sit down with the mayor of Beloit and I checked with the chief, he's all for having the controls, the dispatch controls right here at Sebring. And it would be a voluntary participation by the residents of Sebring, Beloit, and Smith Township.
I have no objections, go ahead.
No.
Nope,
Go
go right ahead.
forward.
Yep.
We'll go forward.
Mayor, is this similar to the call-up that the school system has?
Very similar.
Yeah, but, so what we'll do is, everybody will give them your phone number. You're gonna have to sign up, right?
That's correct. Yeah, voluntary sign
Well,
up.
you know, the school system has one good system. And that's what we're working for, right?
Yes. It'll be operated very similarly.
Good.
Okay. We will continue then. Ordinances and resolutions. Council, at last council meeting, ordinance number 05216, which had an emergency clause on it, had to be declared a first reading because we did not have enough members of council present to pass this as an emergency. If council wishes, they could put the emergency clause back on by motion and then read the title and then vote. Or we can just read the title and declare it a second reading.
Mayor, I'd make a motion to add the emergency clause to ordinance 05-2016.
Second.
Motion by Hart, seconded by Flowers, to add the emergency clause to ordinance 05-2016. This comes from Finance Committee, and this is Councilmember Hart. The first reading was on March the 14th. Anybody have questions or comments? Hearing none, clerk call the roll.
Igrow,
Aye.
Householder.
Aye.
Flowers.
Aye.
Kennel.
Yes.
Hart.
Aye.
Motion carries. It now carries the emergency clause. This is an ordinance authorizing and directing the municipal manager to enter into a contract with Pelton Environmental Products Incorporated to provide the necessary equipment to operate the orthophosphate feed system for the water treatment plant for a sum not to exceed $35,000 and declaring an emergency. Council having heard the ordinance with the first reading of March the 14th and amended to it on March the 28th and the final reading on March the 28th with the emergency clause. What's your pleasure?
Mayor, I make a motion to adopt the ordinance as read with the emergency clause, including the amendment.
Second.
A motion by Harp, seconded by Flowers, to adopt as read with emergency clause. Questions or comments? Hearing none, clerk call the roll.
Igrow.
Aye.
Householder.
Aye.
Flowers.
Aye.
Kennel.
Yes.
Hart.
Aye.
Motion carries. Ordinance is adopted as amended. This is ordinance 05 excuse me. I had two of those. This is ordinance 06-2016. This comes from Finance Committee and Councilmember Hart. This is an ordinance authorizing and directing the municipal manager to purchase a new Trojan OV4000 system controller and associated equipment for the Sebring wastewater plant and declaring an emergency. Whereas the existing UV controller system at the Sebring water treatment plant is non-functional and requires, that's wastewater treatment plant. We're gonna have to, we got a typo there.
Yes.
Whereas the existing UV controller system at the Sebring wastewater treatment plant is non-functional and requires a new UV controller system operate, and whereas Pelton Environmental Products of Cleveland has submitted a quote for $36,542 for a Trojan UV4000 controller system, labor and training to install and assemble. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of Municipality of Sebring, Mahoning County, Ohio. The municipal manager is authorized and directed to purchase a Trojan UV4000 controller system for the wastewater treatment plant from Pelton Environmental Products of Cleveland, Ohio for a sum not to exceed $37,000. Section 2 is found determined that all formal actions of this council related to passage of this ordinance were adopted of the needs of this council and all deliberations of this council and its committees which result in such formal actions remain in compliance with all legal requirements, including those of Section 121.22 the Ohio Revised Code, all pursuant to Section 3.11 of the Charter of the Village of Sebring. Section 3, this is an ordinance to hereby declared to be an emergency measure necessary for the immediate preservation of public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens and municipality of Sebring, Ohio, and to ensure that the Sebring wastewater treatment plant UV controller system will be returned to service in a timely manner. Council, having heard the ordinance read in its entirety, which is pleasure.
I'm going to make a motion to adopt the ordinance as read in its entirety with the emergency clause.
Second. Second.
Okay. Motion by Hart, second by Ms. Householder, to adopt as presented. Questions or comments?
Comment, Mr. Mayor, is probably a typo. The second paragraph, whereas Pelton Environmental Products of Cleveland, Ohio has submitted a quote for $32,542, and then in parentheses it says $36,000. That needs to be changed to reflect the same.
Which one is it, the 36?
Which is?
Is it 36 or 32?
It's 36.
36.
36. Any other questions or comments? Neil, that is a typo. Hearing none, the clerk call the roll.
Igrow.
Aye.
Householder.
Aye.
Flowers.
Aye.
Pennell.
Yeah.
Hart.
Aye.
Motion carries. Ordinance is adopted as presented. This is a resolution 09-2016. This comes from the Legislative Committee, Councilmember Householder. This is a resolution appointing the village mayor and clerk of council as a designee for certain council members for public records training compliance as required by House Bill number 9. Whereas the Ohio General Assembly has passed House Bill 9 mandating that all elected officials on their appropriate designee obtain 3 hours of public records training via a curriculum approved by the Ohio Attorney General during each term served in elected office. And whereas the Office of the Ohio Attorney General will be offering training sessions throughout the state to ensure that all elected officials or their appropriate designees are able to communicate to attend public records training to comply with necessary provisions of House Bill 9. Now therefore be resolved by the Council of the Municipality of Sebring, Ohio, Mahoning County, that the mayor and the clerk of council are hereby appointed as the official designee for the following council members during their current term of office for public records training compliance as required by House Bill number 9. David Wright, James R. Kennel, Village Manager Richard D. Giroux. Council, having heard the resolution read in its entirety, and there's a section 2 that's found in terms of all formal actions this council relating to the passage of this resolution or adopt no means of this council and all deliberations of this council and any of its committees which result in such formal actions were made in compliance with all legal requirements, including those of Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code, all pursuant to Section 3.11 of the Charter of the Village of Sebring. Now, council, having heard this resolution read in its entirety, what's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to pass the resolution as read.
Second.
Motion by Flowers, second by Hart, to adopt as presented. Questions or comments? Hearing none, clerk call the roll.
Igrow.
Aye.
Householder.
Aye.
Flowers.
Aye.
Kennel. Hart.
Aye.
Motion carries. Resolution is adopted as presented. That concludes the ordinances and resolutions. Second agenda item of citizens' comments. Any citizen wish to address council at this time? Any other business to come before council? Mr. Hart?
Yes, Mayor. I'd like to revert back to our Finance Committee meeting we had about 3 or 4 weeks ago. We did a substantial amount of purchasing within the fire department, and some of you weren't here, but I wanted to explain that there was some discrepancies on who was going to buy what, as far as what was going to be on hold and whatnot. And I had the command truck as a whole, but after speaking with the mayor, who in turn spoke with Brian, there was a slight misunderstanding that it was supposed to be purchased, and some of us had no, it was gonna be on hold. But with the funds that are in the account, that it is able to be purchased. And I did talk to the other Finance Committee members, Mr. Kennel and Mr. Wright, and they were both in approval of going ahead and going with that. My question to Brian is reference to the command truck. Where is it going to be housed?
Station 1.
Station 1. Is it going to be used for a personal vehicle?
No, I'm not. I don't have any intentions of using it for that. It's just going to be command and going to seminars, investigations, stuff like that.
Okay, so it'll be on job use, not for
Correct.
not for personal
Correct.
Transportation, so to speak.
Correct.
Okay. The state bid, have you gone out and researched that as of yet, or Mr. Manager, have you done that?
For which item, sir?
For the command truck,
Uh,
supposed to be under state bid?
I was told it did not have to be under state bid. We purchased it through Fleet.
Is it,
Okay, I didn't.
I was told because it was under $50,000 that we didn't have to do it that way.
you can still get it if, do a price comparison, I know that you've already done it, but you can do a price comparison with cooperative purchasing, if cooperative purchasing has that type of truck. But if it's under $50,000, yes, you do not bid. You don't have to bid as long as.
Yeah, when I talked to the guys at Sarshone, they said that this was going to be the same price or a little better if we went with the Fleet
The
price.
state cooperative.
Yes.
Go ahead and go online to DAS, Department of Administrative Services. Just pull up the same model, just double check.
Department of Administrative Services?
Yeah, or if you can give me the model number of the truck that the command truck,
Mhm.
I'll pull up DAS.
Okay. I'll get with you tomorrow on it.
As long as it's below the 50, you're not required to bid. But we do need council approval for two reasons. One, because it's coming out of the EMS monies, or excuse me, the levy monies, which I don't have the authorization. And two, it's over my 15, so you leave this by the council approval.
Okay. Should he research other pricing?
Anything under cooperative purchasing? Yeah. But cooperative
It's
purchasing.
not locked into one.
It determines on whatever the state has put out to bid. They may not have it available, so it's kind of a hit or miss.
More or less
If
looking
they-
at another dealership, that if the other dealership can give us a better price.
Oh, yeah, you can do that. The one thing that, if you go with cooperative purchasing, usually unless they have on site, usually cooperative purchasing requires an order, and then the unit has to be manufactured. It could take months. It's like if you bought a police cruiser off of cooperative purchasing, you may order that unit, but it could be 9 months before you actually take delivery because of the construction process, so they may not have that particular model available. But we can take a look at it. That's not a problem.
And with that, Brian, I think you quoted in our meeting, it was approximately 32 to 35?
It was 32.9, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if there's something else out there with the same dynamics or dimensions of what you need, and it's lower price, it suggests that we look at that.
I've already ordered the truck. I was told to order it, so that's what I did. We discussed it that night. I was told to go ahead and order it, and that's what I did, so I'm not following exactly.
The cooperative purchasing issue too, sometimes unless the extras for a particular truck, if it's not listed in the cooperative purchasing, you're getting a base chassis, which means whatever that cost is, you're gonna have to add all the pieces, parts too.
Okay.
It's very similar to if you buy a 1.5 ton for street or something, then you gotta buy the plow and the bed might be
Right,
extra.
you
and
buy the
sprayer,
additives
so-
too.
Well, we can do a cost analysis. Call me tomorrow.
Okay.
and we'll put
Well,
something
it's already
together,
been
and then
locked
we'll
in.
pull up cooperative purchasing with the assumption they have it in the building.
Okay. That's all I have.
Anything else come before council? Sorry. I recognize you as now. Councilmember?
Malia, what kind of records you keep in your office?
What kind of records?
Yeah, personnel records? Money records, financial records?
The personal records are locked in the other side of the
Yeah.
office in lock-proof cabinets. The finance records are also locked. in the other office.
But you do have records in your office.
Yeah, I have my ordinances and
The
resolutions.
reason I asked, Mayor, because 2 meetings ago, our clerk was locked out of her office, so 2 residents could give an impromptu news interview with our lovely reporter sitting there, and they wouldn't let her back in until they were done. I don't think that's right. If they want to hold a news conference, let them go outside. 2 residents. Right, Melinda?
Okay, I'm
I
unaware,
was not aware of that.
unaware.
I was made aware of it.
Mr. McDaniels, I'll make an exception.
Yeah, I just had, when we were talking earlier, and I said I had a meeting and everything, and you said, you were talking about a law that was, you could, an unenforceable law. What is, can you elaborate on that some?
You know, I really can't. It's been 2 years since I looked at it. It's an ordinance, it's a Sebring ordinance, and I'll bring it with me on Thursday. About, and it's basically about harboring wild animals or something. I can't even remember exactly what it says, so I'll have to bring it with me Thursday.
And one more thing, and I'm not no disrespect, sir.
That's all right. You
But
have
when I
your
was talking to
opinion.
you earlier, I showed you council that, and you said I have 4 cats. That's the whole problem. You have no control of how many cats come up to that.
And so, because we get them fixed. You're right, I don't have any control, but if you go up the street, about 6 houses, you'll see 10 cats sitting in their back door.
You have no, you said you only had 4. You have no control. When you put food and water out for a stray animal, you
correct.
have no control of how many come to your house.
Correct. I understand.
Okay,
But I just tried to give you some opinions on what you could do with them.
I'm done.
You've heard the solicitor's request for a brief executive session. With your pleasure, either that or it's time to read, we can adjourn. No other business. No.
The motion was to do what?
I can't make a motion. I
No,
just
but
need
what
a
was your
brief
reason?
executive session to address personnel issue.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel with no action.
I doubt it.
Okay.
What's
Any
the specifics?
Perfect. Personnel?
Personnel what? Discipline, compensation?
Discipline.
Okay.
Okay. Motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel, disciplinary, and with all of council, manager, mayor, and solicitor.
Okay. Here a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second? No business afterwards?
No, sir.
No business following. Second agree?
Yes.
Questions, comments? Clerk call the roll.
Igro.
Aye.
Householder.
Aye.
Flowers.
Aye.
Kennel. Hart.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are in executive session, folks. Thank you very much. I have to ask to be excused.
I wasn't conducting an interview, somebody came in and shut the door and talked to me.
Yeah, but she asked to open the door and they refused to open it.
Well, that wasn't me.
Oh, I didn't say it was